Welcome back, Path listeners, to another powerful episode of the Path Podcast with your sister, your motivator, your confidence builder, the one who believes that purpose is bigger than obstacles. Path listeners, I'm bringing you another rewind. This was my very first guest that I knew I always wanted to have on my show once I started it, because her story is powerful and the work she's doing because of it. Everyone needs to hear it. The purpose of this podcast is always to show everyone you're not alone, that we can turn even some of the most tragic outcomes into purpose. And when I tell you this person is a living example of turning tragedy and pain into purpose. Wow. This lady is still doing it to this day. She is being recognized for the work she continuously do to bring awareness of domestic abuse to women and their children by embracing, educating, and empowering them, as well as the community. She said these efforts will break the cycle of domestic violence so that victims will live beyond the abuse and live a fulfilling life. Path listeners, when I tell you again, her story is powerful. And sometimes we wish the outcomes can be different, and sometimes they're not. And when you hear her story, I pray that you will, if it's put on your heart, donate to her cause. Because again, like I say, this lady is still out here hitting the streets, doing the work. She has a drive going on right now to collect purses and gently used purses, toiletries, and different things that I will put in the show notes, as well as put the flyer out there. But we have to continue to support her because she's out here doing the work. Path listeners, when you listen to this, share it with someone else you may know that may need to hear this story. But do not sit on it, because you know what? Somebody may be going through this in silence. And thankfully, we have someone like Ladonna Roberts who did not sit back in silence and decided to stand and make a difference in the world. Make sure you visit her website. It will be in the show notes, and she will state this in the episode. It is austintylerfoundation.org. We don't bring you these stories to entertain you. We bring these stories to show you our survival guide through and out of these painful situations. We don't say it's always easy, but we are here to show you it can be done. Welcome to the Path Podcast, where we will travel the lives of some bold women, from dreams to detours to destiny. She did not choose this path. This path chose her. This is the Path Podcast. Hey, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Path Podcast with your girl, Arlene. Today, I am so excited to introduce to you my very first guest, my soror with Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, soror Ladonna Wilkerson Roberts. But before I share more about Ladonna, let me share what the show is about. We are on the couch today, traveling this bold sister's path that some of us could never imagine traveling. And that is the path through domestic violence. Hear me clearly when I say through domestic violence. As you have already heard in my opening and will continue to hear throughout all my episodes, she did not choose this path. This path chose her. Today's show is for anyone that's ever been mentally, verbally, physically, or emotionally abused, currently in an abusive relationship, or you may not be sure due to the different ways abuse shows up in our lives. Sisters, when I envisioned this podcast and all the women I wanted to come through to share their stories to help others, Ladonna was always top on my list. Her story, her example of strength, after living through domestic violence was one of the most unimaginable tragedies that captured the attention of news stations in Georgia, as you will hear after I tell you a little bit about her first. Ladonna Roberts is an investigations manager and is the founder and chief executive officer of Austin Tyler Foundation, Incorporated. Ladonna is a victor of domestic violence and established Austin Tyler Foundation, honoring her loving son, Austin Tyler Hayslip's memory. Austin Tyler Foundation is a nonprofit organization committed to embracing, educating, and empowering victims of domestic violence, as well as increasing community awareness in efforts to end the vicious cycle of domestic violence so victims live fulfilling lives beyond the abuse. Ladonna is the actual face of domestic violence. Ladonna has received honors and recognition for all her work in this lane, receiving most recently the 2020 Humanitarian Award by Gospel Choice Music Award, and serves on the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, Survivors Advisory Council, as a voice for the voiceless, raising awareness and educating the community. Ladonna has been invited to speak and share her story with many organizations, churches, radio, and television platforms. We will share at the end of the show how you can reach out to her and her organization for future speaking engagements and to give support to her worthy nonprofit. As a domestic violence survivor and advocate, Ladonna believes that we can start with awareness while making prevention a priority. She is a woman of God who feels she is fully directed by the Heavenly Father to make a difference in the fight against domestic violence and promote positive communication and healthy relationships. Everyone, I want you to join me in welcoming my Sarah, Ladonna Wilkerson Roberts. Hello, Ladonna. How are you?
I am fine. Thank you. I sound so good on paper.
You are great on paper, and it is still doesn't do you justice. I just wish everyone on here could meet you and experience the joy you bring to others that get to know you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Today is your day. Listen openly and honestly, to make a plan, to be liberated. You're in a safe space, sister. Now let's talk real. Ladonna, before we get into that September 21st day that changed your life forever, let's first go back to the beginning.
The relationship was good. You have these, I call it these relationships that you really don't know the person till you know the person. Everything is all good and glorified at the time, and you don't see things that you would normally see. We met in law enforcement. I used to be a police officer, so I was working for the county police department, and he was working for the city police department. So that's how we met. So in the relationship, and let's keep in mind that relationship and everything was fine up to a certain point. And then you leave and come back, leave and come back. Statistics show that a woman leaves an abusive relationship 7 to 9 times before she actually leaves the abuser. So you just think about a woman that doesn't know that she is actually in a relationship of abuse. You go back and tour with it. So the relationship at one point was good. And it came to 2003. And that was when our first incident occurred between me and him and our son. So
2003, before that day at the daycare, or 2003, you mean just at a different, something different that happened that
year? Yes, in 2003, because 2004 is just a whole nother incident. So 2003, I was leaving It was me, my son, and a friend that was there at the property. And he came and he got upset. And so, because he seen another man there. And so he began to hit me, and while I had my son in my hand, and then he made a threat against the guy that was there. So that's the first initial physical altercation. And I think it's, I guess right here we could say, knowing the different types of abuse. So you all can relate to the physical part of abuse, but we never talk about the sexual, the financial, and the emotional and psychological. So up until that point, it was just I later learned now, all this, what I'm saying is in stages and all after 2004. But I can implement certain parts that I know now that I didn't know at that time. So, so those things were, charges was filed and everything. Police was called. And because not understanding the victim, we always think about the abuser. And so I went in what was called by his attorney, because he was, of course, a police officer at the time in 2003. So I went to his attorney's office, and the attorney, typed up the letter and saying, basically that he's a good man, don't want to lose his job and stuff. And at that point, it was just where, okay, I don't want you to be around me. You have 3 kids. So let me just sign this, and you don't need to, lose your job. So thinking about the abuser, not myself and my son. So I did that. And so only thing he got out of that was probation, anger management, and a fine, of course. But that was it after that. And then, went on throughout the process of moving on with our lives. But I wasn't at that place where I was like totally, because in my mind, this Disney World life we live, I want the father, the child, myself, the house, and the white picket fence. But reality that we live, but as every girl always dreaming, fantasize about her husband, the family, and everything. So that was one reason after that incident that I went back to the relationship.
Let me ask you this. You did say that some things you learned later after everything had happened, later when the tragedy happened, that you find out the different types of forms of abuse. That you saw clearly some of that leading up into that first incident that happened, that first abuse that happened?
Well, yeah, after the fact, yes. Yeah, yeah. After the fact.
What was it more like? Was it, can you define which one? What was it? Emotional?
I was psychological and emotional.
Psychological and emotional.
Because it wasn't physical. And I have worked with some women these last 16 years, and they would prefer that the physical, because the physical you hit, you fight, and then it's over with. But the words and constantly downgrading, you'll always remember that. So some women prefer to have the physical part and not the psychological and emotional abuse.
Now that is something you would not think someone would feel that way because of the pain of that. But I do know anybody who has an internal emotional abuse, it is something that is in you that is just as painful as someone, can be as painful to someone as someone hitting you. So I kind of understand that. I would have never thought that.
But you remember,
that is an interesting.
You remember when we were smaller, sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but word never.
Never hurt.
Yeah, we gonna remember all those. That's just the opposite. You hit me, I'm gone. That's okay. The pain is gone. Once the bruise and the discoloration is gone, that's fine. That's one thing. But if I constantly remember every word you say, you ugly, you fat, you no good, you continue to think about those things. So that's what makes it different. And everyone's situation is different. Yes. And everyone is at a different point from that 7 to 9 times for a woman to leave an abusive relationship. So I may get a victim that's, just on her third time. And at that point, okay, find out where she's at. And she may still want to be there. So some other things we can do, get her a safety plan, get her some resources so she can get a plan to, move or know some options just when she's ready to leave the abusive relationship. Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I read that on the website, and I know you may mention about the, where women can go. They say that you should have a plan before you do anything. And that was something profound that I learned also, because I understand that when I read it, but it's interesting. They said it's the most dangerous times is when a woman is leaving.
Yeah, 75%. Is 75% increases to homicide when a woman decides to leave her abuser. So I was in that 75 percentile because I had already left the relationship. I had already ended it. We had no contact leading up to September 21st, 2004. I would drop.
So you were already out of the relationship.
I was already out of it.
Okay, so let me ask you this. When you made that decision to leave, were you talking to someone about it? Did someone you were confiding in anyone?
No, And like you said, you learn all these things afterwards. And that was one thing God showed me and said to me, awareness. Because even as an ex-police officer sitting in the police academy for 12 weeks, it's only a 2-hour block on physical violence, what we could arrest for. Then it's nothing about the sexual and financial and all the other that you may encounter. So this was something totally new. So yeah, I found out this after the fact.
And once again, I want everyone to remember she was a police officer herself. And that tells us a lot about the training, which I agree, it needs to be more so people can understand it, everyone else to understand there's more to abuse than just the physical. And understanding all of that, it truly would help.
Yes.
Even officers. And then you being an officer and still learning a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that is very profound.
Yes. And so to continue with the question, when it ended when I was over there. And after that March incident, I went back shortly thereafter. He proposed, I accepted. And you have the unction, the gut feeling that, we all have that sometimes we don't listen to. And Austin and I was at his place because we never lived together. I had my place, he had his. And someone called, a female called and asked for me something. So at that point, of course, I was mad. And, it was just still me and Austin because he was working. And I went in the bathroom and I just asked God, is this supposed to be my husband? Show me. And that is people say it all the time, like if you don't ask God if you ain't ready for the answer.
That's true.
And he started revealing and showing me things that, this isn't good. And when I was crying in the bathroom, my son came in and just touched my knee. I was just sitting on top of the stool, and
Mm-hmm.
then he pulled off some tissue. And at that point, I was like, yeah, it if you know if a three
Your baby can.
is doing this, I know it's time to go. So at that point,
Yeah.
I left the ring on his dresser. I got Austin and I, and we left and just ended it at that point. I mean, at that point, it was just I just knew it because he would start showing me, during the time period that no, this is not healthy. This is not. So
Yeah. So let me ask you this:
now,
when you
mhm.
mhm. when you then told him that you were not going to marry him, what was his reaction just at that moment when he realized that?
Oh, I just left the ring. He wasn't there. I left the ring at his
Okay.
apartment, his key to the apartment, and that was it. And then the phone call, but it was no vows, no calling or coming after that.
Yes. Okay. So tell me, you brought up Austin. Tell me before we talk about that day. Tell me a little bit about Austin.
Well, just like his mom, just smile, energetic, love trucks, anything dealing with big trucks, cars and everything. And he had started going to pre-K. So he was at Doherty County pre-K school. And so yeah, he was just 4 years old, but I mean just
The average little
joy.
4-year-old boy
Yep.
loves his trucks. And if he anything like you, I know he had a big smile
Oh
and just
yeah.
people person for a 4-year-old, I'm sure,
Yes.
and exciting.
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. So how long had he been going to that the Doherty
Well, he had just
daycare?
started because school started in August, and
Mhm.
so it happened September.
Okay, so let's go to that day. That day, September 21st.
Hmm.
Was it the end of the day, beginning of the day?
Okay, let me
Tell me
take
a
you
little bit about
back
that.
to because we got to go back to get to that day. So after that,
Yes.
I started looking at myself and asking God, what I want. Started looking and applying for different positions to move because I was like, okay, I got a year before he starts regular, kindergarten where, definitely
Mhm.
be stable, um, where wherever, but transition. So I was started applying and looking at different jobs and, just really looking at, things for us and what I wanted to do to move. So I have interviewed several different positions up here in the metro Atlanta area. And it was this one position I had applied for and got an interview in September. And when you just know that it's like you killed this interview, this is it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I felt so good about the interview and everything. So then when I shook the deputy's hand after the interview, I said, okay, I'll be seeing you soon. And I bet he probably was like, "Oh, this lady's kind of arrogant or something."
Uh-huh.
Nevertheless, the next week or whatever happened, he called me back and offered me the job. So I had two
Wonderful.
because my start date was supposed to be out October 1st because it was still a state job. So and I was still working for in the state agency at that time.
Mhm.
And so I was like, oh my God, I got 2 weeks. I got to find somewhere to stay. I got to find the schools, and I had a house in Albany as well. So I knew I would be coming back and forth. And even between this time, I already had got a child support order, got Austin legitimated. We had went to court and everything in between this 9 month period after I had left the relationship.
Mhm.
So then once I got that call and I knew I had 2 weeks, that's when that morning of when
Okay.
I called him and asked him, would he meet me there to the school after I got off from work so we could talk. And he was just, and I was working at a call center then. So, them calls be coming in and, be like just lingering on the phone. So I said, I'm at work. I'll meet you there after I get off work. And the pre-K extended day wasn't far from my job. So it was that afternoon, say after about 4:30 or something. He was out there.
Let me ask you a quick question, Ladonna, before that part. When you said meet me there so we can talk, so it was something, it wasn't you weren't at a place where you were afraid, like you thought anything.
No, I hadn't had any conversation, any contacts. I mean, nothing, no visits. I mean, nothing. So no, at all. And not knowing, like I said, not knowing the statistics, the potential risk for homicide increases 75% when you decide to leave. Not knowing this. Because knowing this information prior to or even knowing the in-depth abuse that I was in prior to, I would just, me and Austin just would have left. But because he was still getting him from Nana on his days, and taking him to school, that Monday, because he had him that Saturday, so that Monday. So doing with that throughout that time, now I did not know that I was in danger.
Okay. Had he ever threatened your life or Austin's life ever still? Because I think with your answer, that would say no. You would say no, but had he ever threatened your life? Just, how some people can sometimes say some bad things, of course, but had he ever said it to a point where it kind of shook you before that happened? Even?
No.
Okay. Okay. And I know you were saying that you weren't afraid because, of course, I'm sure then.
Yeah, and then you thinking you meeting him, you in Plainview, you at a school where there's other kids.
Yes, exactly.
Stuff, so that it's not where it was, come to the house and it's isolated or anything of that nature.
Exactly.
So yeah, so when I got there from work, he had already got Austin, checked him out and put his book bag in the patrol car. And he was just waiting for me to come. And I seen Austin, hugged Austin, and he was just playing, run around in the way the buses depot. But of course, no buses was there because it was after school. And, I told him, hey, I want to meet with you, let you know that I got a job offer in Atlanta and that, we'll be moving. So what we're going to do as far as, with your visitation and stuff. And that's when he, said, you moving for a man. I was like, what? No, I got a job that I got to move. And, I just want to make sure how we can, still do that. I'll be coming back because I, still got the house and stuff. And so that what got him upset when I said that. And that's when he pushed me. And then back then, it's so hard to remember, but back then, the flip phones was the style. So I pulled out my phone and getting ready to call the police. And, I'm calling the police on the police. And so he's like, no, I'm getting ready to go. I already got him. I already checked him out of school. So I said, well, okay, then. So he was.
So he said that even right at that moment after he pushed you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, let me ask you this. If I read this correctly, he was in his car, the police car, and in his uniform at the time.
On duty. Mm-hmm.
On duty. He was on duty.
He was on duty. He was working.
Okay. Was Austin supposed to go with him as well?
No. He was just there for me to tell him that. But no, he was. Yeah, he just went. He was on there to check him out. That's that time. But he wasn't going with him. But we all were leaving.
Okay. I'm sorry. So you say then he you just told him, when you told him that, I'm sorry, you can pick back up.
Yeah. So he said that he had already checked him out and had his stuff in the car. So that's when we were leaving. He was walking in front of me. I was behind him a little ways. And I also was running around, still running around over there by the where the buses come in, that area. It was just an open area. And we turned to call for Austin to come. That's when he turned, pulled out his service revolver, shooting me once, walked past me after he shot me, calling for our son, shooting Austin once, and then and it was like the handicap ramp that you go down, and I was shot in my hands. So I don't know how for the unbelievers, I don't know how I pressed down, but I know God got me up to the top by the door, and He wanted me to see him shoot himself. And then I had a friend that grandma was one of the aides there at the extended day. And she came to the door and she pulled me in, and I was yelling for Austin. So, and then at that time, once of course they heard the shots and stuff, they called EMS and the police and everything, and everybody came then. So he and Austin died that day, and I'm the only survivor of this tragic event. That just because I was getting ready to make a move, and one thing I learned that domestic violence is this main meaning, if you don't take anything, is power and control.
Yes.
So even though I was still in Albany, he was still somewhere in his mind thought he still had control over me, even though we weren't, talking. But when he knew that I was moving, leaving, I'm just assuming because he's deceased and we don't know what his thoughts were at the time, that that he had lost the control.
Exactly. That's what I thought. That's exactly what I would think as well, is that he was losing total control, with you being at least right there where he can monitor you closer. And you and Austin, I'm sure. So let me ask you this. When they pulled you in, I just want to go back, and when they pulled you in and you said he shot Austin, did you know at that moment he did shoot Austin?
Well, I didn't see him shoot, but I heard the shoot.
Okay.
So that's one thing, I guess, why I still have my mind, and he had better purpose for me, where he allowed me to see baby. But
I would agree with that.
To see him shoot himself.
Exactly. And so when the paramedics came and you went, of course, you had to go to the hospital too. And at what point in all of this did you find out about Austin?
It was because they had to do emergency surgery on my hands. So it was before that, because I kept on asking, where's my son? Where's my son? And they even brought in a chaplain. And of course, my mom is still 3 hours away from me. And so the doctor said, okay, you calm down, and we will take you to Austin. And well, of course, they said your son. And when they, did put me in a wheelchair or whatever, took me to him, and he was gone, that's when they had to sedate me at that point.
Yeah, of course.
And they just went ahead and took me to surgery, where they did my surgery. But before my surgery is when I was told that my son was He was dead.
This is the part where when I first met you, Ladonna, of course, I didn't know you. I met you at our church, one of our churches, uh, Crown Jewels, yes, event.
Mm-hmm.
And I only heard a little bit about you. A friend that I was with, and she said, if you hear her story, and because I, just was introduced to you, found out that we were in the same sorority. And I'm like, she has such this bubbly attitude, because for some people, for me, let me say, the idea of thinking of losing a child is just one of the most um, unimaginable things as a parent.
Yeah.
And then the way it happens is even, multiplies it. So that's when I've always felt like I was in awe of your story, because of the way you carry yourself and how you move, and the different things I've seen you do. And to go back to that day and just imagine that you had to go through emergency surgery, finding out your son was murdered by his father, I just can't imagine. And if anyone is out here listening to this story, it is something of it just unimaginable. It's hard sometimes for me to put into words, because I think a lot of you out there probably will listen to, all of what Ladonna has shared so far. And you just cannot imagine this happening, But if someone is out there and her story resonates with you, everybody's stories, they're different. But if you see or have experienced in some ways some things that she's saying, I'm praying today that you will seek help. And so, Ladonna, let me go back into part of after you found that out and you had the surgery, you came out with everything that was going on. Did you still move, or were you still in the process of moving after you were able to? Were you still considering moving once all of that happened? Where was your mind at that moment after you got out of the hospital?
My mind was not on the move, on the job, on anything, because I wasn't able to mentally, physical, emotional, spiritual, nothing. I was, yeah. So I was actually in the hospital 2 days. My friend and mom, helped, with the arrangement, the funeral arrangements. And then after the service, we took his body to Florida, where I'm from, and did just the graveside there. And I was there in Florida for a while before I, because not the deputy that I shook his hand and told him, "I see you, I'll be back." The inspector general, he contacted my mom and told her that no matter how long it takes, this position will be there for me.
Wonderful.
So yeah, I still had the job, but still I just went back because I had to have someone, because I got shot in the hands, and the bullet also grazed my left breast, and we know the heart is on your left side. So I had a cast on my left hand and pins where my bone in my right hand had shattered. So they had to, put pins in there, and after they did the surgery and stuff. And I'm a lefty.
Oh my.
So my right hand. So I definitely had the whole time period of asking why, and and having my mom and other people that was there supporting and praying and doing everything, because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't feed myself, feed myself. I mean, nothing.
Yes.
That was definitely a transition time in my life. It's time for it was a dark time.
Yes, I can only imagine. It was. Let me ask you this. Was his family, your son's father's family, were they around or reached out to you at all?
No, his family did not. His brother, well, I shouldn't say not all of his family. The brother and nieces and nephew, they did attend the funeral. But the sister and the mother didn't.
Yeah.
And hadn't made contact. Since you got all this social media now. I have a couple of people reach out to me, but it's where I have forgiven him and them, because in my mind, I was mad at all. I was ready to knock everybody off, some of my pain, but it wasn't them. So, you as you're going through your healing process and part of grieving, so I'm learning all what I've been through, and like a bubble just burst, and I'm just like, my whole world, that what I knew is no more. So yeah, they have, one or two have reached out or whatever, but I mean, no conversation or whatever.
Okay. Let me ask you, did you do any counseling for yourself after, when you were trying to get things back on track and trying to, get your life moving again? Did you do any counseling at the time, or it was?
I did one session, because like you say, this is where you have no knowledge, you don't understand. And for some reason, God just, he know, when he said he knows what you can handle and he won't put more on you than you can. That's Ladonna. He put Ladonna name there. So in counselor one session, I didn't have a problem with talking.
Yes.
That was like, okay, how? And I asked the therapist, I was like, how this supposed to go? She said, you just talk. Like, and at that point, maybe it was just still too early for me to grasp and really try to understand. But as far as talking about Austin and what happened, and that has never been an issue for me. Right. So I didn't understand, and I asked, I was like, well, how are we supposed to do? And she's like, you just talk. I'm like, I don't have a problem with talking. Yes. So they didn't go in depth. So I didn't go to counseling until years later. Okay. And I had a better understanding and grips on my thoughts, and got all my why me, and angry, and frustrated, just trying to find my way after all this. Like, now I'm like defining, who are you?
That is important for people to understand. We're human. We go through that why me. That is something I'm sure anyone who's been through any type of tragedy or obstacles, we all have asked, why me? And so when you would ask that question and ask, what do you feel like finally made you turn that into, okay, this happened to me, because it's a quote I love to say, we must face our pain to overcome it. And of course, understanding everything. What was the turning point for you, you feel like, or that day when you probably felt like you maybe didn't cry, 20 times, you cried 5. I always say, it was a positive thing if you didn't cry 20 times versus the 5. How did you turn that, losing your son, I know, crying and missing him and wondering why me, how do you finally turn that around, you feel like?
Well, it was so many things, because I just knew I didn't have no more tear ducts in my eyes. And then I cried some more. So, hey, I was like, okay, that's not it. But like I said, I kept hearing him say awareness. I just kept hearing awareness during recovery, just sitting down, you waiting on everybody to do what you need done for you, and you just had it. And One of my aha moments during this process was when I was at my mom's and she would get up and get me dressed, take my shower, whatever, and she would go in and this before I even knew anything about Creflo Dollar. So she was turning the TV. I said, okay, well, you leave it there. And she said, I'll go and fix your breakfast, after I take a shower, whatever. So I to this day, I don't know what verse or chapter or anything Creflo was preaching from, but I can distinctly how, like he's looking at me, he just looking at the teleprompter or whatever. But to me, he was looking at me and he says, nothing just happens. Everything happens for a reason. And that right there quickened me so until I was like, God, so you telling me you knew that this was going to happen? You had a whole nother turn of events that came up out of that. So I had so many. It's not just one.
Exactly, I understand that.
Transferring back, transferring back to Georgia, and it was where it was bigger than me. And if I don't know, how many other people don't know? So it was a multitude of different things that occurred that made me want to, you know what, I can help somebody else. And even if telling my story just help one person, okay, let's continue his memory. And that's how we started with Austin Tyler Foundation. I just dropped his last name and start asking God to show me how he want me to do this and, which direction to go at this time. And of course, I definitely had friends and family to, support, the vision of me doing this and having no experience in a foundation, what is needed, nothing. So it was a strong support group that, assisted me along the way.
That's wonderful because it does take, people to also help. But I do believe, God gives us certain battles and obstacles because he knew you would take care of this. Since this was something that you had to deal with, he knew you were going to do something with it to help others. Because I remember hearing a story with I forgot who it was at the time, but they went through, they were molested, and they were saying that, we do ask why me, but they know that there was the one thing about it, they knew that what they went through couldn't be in vain. And they wanted to help other children. And that is what the path is about. Talking about your story, the path you took, but it's about someone who took something so major that happened in their lives, but they turned it around where it's going to help a multitude of others. Because now,
it's turning into purpose.
It's turning into purpose. And that's one of my sayings is purpose is bigger than obstacles. Because now you're helping hundreds and millions of other women, I'm going to say, because and when helping them to understand what truly all these other forms of abuse and how, and looking at you to see how you came out of this. And even after not just being abused, but losing a child, they'll say, why can't I can do this also. So that is one of the beauties of out of these tragedies is seeing somebody else who's gone through that, who took that path, and now they're trying to do something good out of it. And now Austin Tyler's name will, be known to the world, because his living is not in vain. He did what he was supposed to at 4 years old. And now his mother is taking it, to the world, taking his name and his what he stood for to the world right now to help others. Let me ask you this. So after that happened, how long was it after the event when that happened, the tragedy that happened, that you started the foundation? What year did you start the Austin Tyler Foundation?
And I started the foundation in 2005.
Wow, that was right. That was great.
I started in 2005, and like you said, you just have this thought, and then you start just putting things together, and then God starts showing you and bringing people to. The one thing I realized is that it wasn't just for me. Now God gave me the ability. I can see when women are in an abusive relationship. I it's like a magnet, and I just be like focused, like, I don't want to see it. I don't want to see it. And that was, during some years where I was still immature when God was showing me, oh yeah, don't come to you. They're not from you. I can recall this time. We were my husband is a deacon, and we were on duty at church, and I seen it clear that he was directing me to this one person at the altar. I tell you, I'm, and this is just how we do as human, because we're human. I'm looking towards the band, I'm looking up, I'm like, no, and then still, I think this when pastors like, had a deacon wives come, he said that, and I was like, oh Lord. And here I am. I'm warned right here in church with myself about going to this person that I know God was drawing me to, and it's like, I'm like, being disobedient, and she had a child in her hand, and the deaconess that was beside me ended up getting the child, and I was like, oh Lord, okay, and he just kept on. It was just a pulling. So when it finally, went to her and start praying with her, and and I knew the connection. Praying for her and stuff, and I mean, we were like the last ones up there. She came and sat beside me with the child she had, and she had twins, and the other child with one of her friends brought her to church, and of course I knew that it was domestic violence, but she said that they got into an altercation that night, and he went to jail, and she didn't know what to do. And I was like, at that point, it was like, I have to release myself from allowing God to do what he's doing. So, he give us these, we don't go through these situations, whether it be divorce, child molestation, domestic violence. We don't go through it for ourselves. He drawing people. They are waiting for us to get ourselves together so others can be drawn. He said they will be drawn into our bosom, or whatever you can feed them. So that was just example of, now I see and I know those signs, so till I can say, but I go and do it. Now I'm not rebellious as I was, or to move now.
Of course, you understand it more now, and what truly the purpose that's been placed on you, and God gives you that that knowing now what you know how to do it, handle it now. So that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful place to be. Tell me about, like, the woman, right, that you were just talking about. Now that you've been in the foundation, it's been up and growing for years now. Tell me about some of the women you've helped. Let me say this. I was going to mention, I know the Hurting Hearts tea you do every April that I look forward to every year now that I've been attending for the past 2 to 3 years. That when I tell you, everyone out there, she does a beautiful job for the awareness and that she's doing. It is so well put together, And I look forward to it because I know it's helping, but also to the point of how she does it, excellent, and it's and in order. And tell us a little bit about that, as well as the women that you're helping, and something about through your Austin Tyler Foundation, the Hurting Hearts Tea that you have in April of every year.
Okay. Well, and there again, that was a nugget that God gave me to start the Hurting Hearts Tea, is because he gave me an analogy. We as African American women, it's like we don't have friends, or we don't trust, and all these other things. But when we going through situations, we never tell anyone.
Yes.
And when something happened, you say, well, I didn't know she was going through that, but I seen this and, seen that, those type of conversations we all have heard or been a part of.
And that's for, like you said, for that, divorce, finances, just even internal marital problems, or it could be anything. We all sit there and just think we're alone in whatever we're dealing with, and we don't tell anyone. So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I just had to agree.
No, that's fine, because that's so true. And so he said to me, he was like, okay, what about all my friends? Now, do not, because I tell everything. I ain't got no secrets.
Yes.
You know what I say? Another thing that God gave me with start with awareness, but make prevention your priority. Yes. We have to speak out. We have to let somebody know. So I'm like, I did a test. Okay, what's going on? No, nothing ain't nothing. It's like, okay, well, this going on, this happened, or whatever. But we want to be open with each other. So I was like, let's get together and really see, if you say you my friend, then you should know what I'm going through.
Yeah.
And if I can't tell you what I'm going through, why I'm saying you my friends? It's different between friends and a. So we and I say we have to pull down and break down the friend. We use friends so loosely.
I agree.
Even a associate, you know what I'm saying? It's so that's how that was birthed, and that's how everybody got this start. We started out with everybody. You invite your own people to sit at your table.
Yes.
So you can get to know who the people in your group, and really, and then hearing our speakers and myself, and to resonate, and then just make it a safe place and atmosphere where each other can share what they're going through. Because of the guilt and the shame, a lot of people don't say anything. Because, okay, they're going to talk about me, this, that, and the other. But you know what? It's a lot of dead people here.
Amen.
Like mouth closed, that could have just said something, because I don't know your resources.
Exactly.
How I can help. So until we start speaking about and being open with one another, and I know everybody don't have your best interest.
That's the truth.
One or two that you can confide in. That's at one or two that you can make you sleep easy. You know what I'm saying? Because one thing I like to, before I go on, say, we don't understand the effects of divorce, sexual molestation, the violence has on the family.
I agree.
Just you, the victim. It's you, the survivor, you, the mother. My mom, she got on anxiety pills, and I mean,
because you're her baby. One of her babies.
Her baby. And she, one, and she couldn't even, she's like, she couldn't do nothing but hold me, because she had three of her babies. Yes. So she couldn't tell me how to feel, but just her being there, was the support enough. So we have to get out. And one thing that through this process as well, God showed me 3 things that are vital. Listeners, write this down. This is a free tip. 3 things are vital. A relationship with God, or whomever your maker is, a higher power or creator or whoever. God is mine.
Amen.
One is to identify the problem, whether it's you lost a job, drugs, domestic violence, divorce, whatever that issue you're dealing with, identify the problem. Because if you don't speak it, you can't heal it.
I agree.
And the third one is a sound support system that no matter is not going to judge, just going to be your ear, be the answer when you ask the question, but just having that support. So throughout life, whether it's on your job or wherever as well, if you have those three things, work those. I was like, wow, that's the
masterpiece there. That's a plan to try.
Yes, that's the plan.
That's a plan.
That's the plan.
All in itself. And I will be putting all of that together when I put the notes together for the show. Your 3 points, clearly.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the plan. Critical. So through Austin Tyler Foundation, we raise awareness through fundraising events. As you say, the Hurting Hearts Tea. We love our
that is so much fun, everybody. You have to. I'll be posting that every time. We just did one just recently in December with our ugly Christmas sweaters.
Yes. And then we support domestic violence shelters. We give back to them. We do outreach and prevention programs, support groups, one-on-one. And we also assist in safety plan because most of the referrals I get is by word of mouth. Word of mouth, or someone knows someone, or someone say, hey, call Ladonna. And that's how. Because please know, you read my bio. I do work full-time and run
and it says investigations manager at that. So that has to be some, a lot of detailed work sound like also.
So that's what we do as far as through the foundation. And the domestic violence shelter in Albany, Georgia, Liberty House, is the one that we always partner with and give back because that was the one there. I didn't necessarily have to go there because, I was still I was working, had income, but just the resources that the director at the time provided me about the counseling and all that stuff, it was just, priceless. So we definitely always go back to Liberty House to help assist them in what we're doing.
Let me just mention this. I know it's because of purpose, because I work, since I went through a divorce, I work at the church even with our divorce ministry. But how do you, so I understand how you don't hold the pain when you hear it from other people, but how do you handle it yourself, dealing with women, going through some of these traumatic experiences? And it can take you back sometimes to those moments of your own pain, but how do you keep that foundation? I believe it's for the 3 vital reasons you said here for me, but I'm just going to have you still say it. Mine is that relationship with God, for one. But when you hear other people going through that pain, I just want to grab every woman and hug them. Every woman that's gone through anything, because I know women deal with so much. It's enough we try to take care of our families, but how do you still manage keeping that big smile you have, that joyful way you carry yourself? And I promise you see she and her husband, they're just the cutest couple. But how do you keep that smile when you're still helping women going through such a hurting piece that brings that memory back to what happened to you?
I think the main key of it all is forgiving myself.
That's a major one too, forgiving
myself for the lack of knowledge and that I didn't know, not blaming myself, knowing that and having that understanding in relationship, like Creflo said, and even that it was just a blur, but knowing that God, nothing just happens. Everything happens for a reason.
Yes.
And this was a part of his plan, because guess what? If Austin was still here in 21, I wouldn't probably be at this point. I probably wouldn't be in the relationship that I have now. I wouldn't have the relationship with God right now. It's so many different
Yes.
factors that altered, but because He chose me, and one of my favorite scriptures is the book of Job, and this transition, I just would put wherever it had Job, I put Ladonna.
Yes. Wow. That's powerful.
You see, everything. He took everything.
Yes.
Everything. And I just, I was like, look around. Like, oh my God, I can't complain. This man, his children, his cattle, his wife, everything.
Yes. Yes.
So who am I that he can't try me?
I agree.
Or tell Satan that I can't be tried, because the relationship was already there. And I'm just glad that I passed the test. So I think giving yourself opens me up to receive, and it's not where when I share, I'm stronger now. I have almost 16 years in September. I have my mom.
Of course.
2 years ago, I had 3 graduations, 3 school graduations I attended the same year my baby was supposed to graduate from high school.
Wow. You had to go to 3.
Everybody else is smiling and laughing and having a good time. No one knew I was crying inside. No one knew me, how am I doing? So it's where you find comfort and peace within.
Yes.
And celebrate those victories and milestones with others.
Yes. And I want everybody to remember that part she's saying. You have to find that peace within and comfort within. You have to, because your mind will always go back to Austin would have been graduating. Austin would have gone to his prom. Austin would be in a few years maybe getting married. All of those firsts that we all like to, think of for our children. And it has to come with that peace and comfort within.
Yes. Oh. So, helping others, it gives me peace. It gives me joy in knowing that just, doing a safety plan or just talking with someone. Someone just called me the other day, about, hey, I got someone I want to, call me. My husband, he even tell, hey, this her ministry, this her baby.
Yes.
He's right there, praying and supporting. So that strong, it was just knowing, just understanding your purpose in life.
That is the key. That is the key. And let me tell you, I can talk to you all day long. I know everyone, let me tell you, I can go another hour with her just to hear more, but I know we need to wrap it up. She will be back at some point. Hopefully, I have to ask her, but because we will be bringing her back again in October. That is normally domestic violence month, is it not, Ladonna? Okay. Yep. So you will be hearing from her more. So let me ask you this. I'm going to ask you this first, because Austin is always going to be when I see you, I think of the name Austin Tyler. Your name is Ladonna, but I think of your baby. What do you think? You say he would have been 21 this year?
Yep, 21 April.
What do you? And that's why you have. Okay, that makes sense to me. What do you feel like he would have been saying to you right now, or do you feel him? I'm sure every year when he sees that, look at my mom, what my mom is doing. What would you think he would be thinking?
I think he's just smiling and he's proud of me.
Of course.
He's really proud of me and what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And, I think the forgiveness is so vital, that we like to hold people and not looking at ourselves. So even I had to write a letter the deceased, I can and let him know that I forgive you.
That's
Because I didn't want to go on my life, holding in the what if, and I can't ask why.
exactly.
I had to get that self piece of understanding why.
Yes.
And God showed me. So I could write a letter and burn it and throw it in the sea of forgiveness. And I'm free of that. I don't hold that baggage. Okay. The more baggage you continue to hold, the heavy the load is.
Exactly. And you're just building and adding to it. You need to release. And that sounds like what you did, because forgiveness is key to move forward. And that's something you would suggest, I'm sure, for others, get that forgiveness and write a letter and burn it even.
Burn it.
But truly make sure you're forgiving.
Let it go.
Yes. Truly make sure you're forgiving and burn it, and do not pick it back up. Not that same way. You pick it up to run that mantle like she's doing with Austin Tyler Foundation Incorporated right now, and the different ways she's doing it, and making sure that, again, Austin's name is not, it won't be in vain. His death won't be in vain.
Yes.
So,
it's not in vain.
So let me ask you this. What is there, before we end, we're going to ask about how people can reach out to you and your foundation. But before you do give that information, tell us, is there anything else that maybe I didn't ask that you feel like is very important that you would want to say before you give how people can connect with you?
Well, that's the 3 points was the thing that jumped ahead of that I wanted to make sure that people know.
It was said at the right time. Don't worry. Okay. That was perfect.
Speak out. Let someone know what is going on. You are not alone. Amen. Do not be ashamed or embarrassed about what you're doing. And it's not your fault.
Yes, it's not your fault.
We are designed to be nurturers, and we want to fix it. Everything. Some things we can't fix.
Yes.
And we try to fix, once your child or husband, boyfriend, whoever get out of your face, you can't control anything they do.
Yes.
So once you get that and understand that you are not alone,
exactly.
It's help. Listen, it's so many resources out here, more these last 16 years than I know prior to. I didn't even know about Liberty House, and Liberty House was right in Albany. But the thing about it is that's important. You must know the signs. The signs of domestic violence. You will never know that you are in a domestic violence situation. Yes. That's when awareness come in. And that's when, your circle, if we all inform ourselves, knowledge is power. Well, I don't need to know this. Or you don't know, it might not be for you.
Exactly.
Violence might not be your thing. But what if it's somebody lost a job, or somebody on alcohol or drugs or whatever?
Mm-hmm.
And with this. And because all those things are just subtopics, yes. I would say, to the domestic violence. Because domestic violence, because you got dealing with all those, that doesn't make you, it's only thing, domestic violence, control and power. And once they lose that, and I must say, because it's the day after, we seen that on national TV yesterday.
Yes.
People lose control and power. What happens?
I agree. Yes. Clearly for today. Yes, I agree 100%.
If anyone want to get with me, my email address is, you can email austintylerfoundation@gmail.com. You can visit the website, austintylerfoundation.org. If you want to talk, 404-740-8369. You can follow me on Austin Tyler 04 on Instagram or Austin Tyler Foundation on Facebook.
Wonderful. And I will put all of that information on all of our social media platforms, so you can have that. Ladonna, I am so thankful again for your time, for your story, and for how God is using you. Everyone, I just want you to know, Ladonna's path is your survival guide to show it can be done. Purpose is bigger than obstacles. Do the work. There's purpose on the other side of your obstacle. You just have to know that. Your path can be repaved. It's not going to change what happened in some cases, but just know that you can repave and move into a different part of your life. All of those points that Ladonna pointed out, forgiveness is key, God, and identifying the problem and getting a sound support system. Those are a lot of keys to helping you on your healing and your process. We hope you will do the work yourself, sister, because there are other people out there waiting for you. Again, Ladonna, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
During the COVID-19 crisis, domestic violence has risen dramatically. If you or a loved one is in an abusive relationship and need immediate help, call 911. To support someone affected by domestic abuse, contact the Austin Tyler Foundation at www.austintylerfoundation.org or call 404-740-8369. Another organization you can contact for support is the National Domestic Violence Hotline at www.thehotline.org or call 1-800-799-SAFE. That's 1-800-799-7233.
Thank you, everyone, for hanging with us. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and other platforms, so you can stay up on our bi-weekly real conversations with these bold women. You can follow The Path Podcast on Facebook at The Path Podcast and on Instagram and Twitter at The Path_podcast. And if you would like to be a guest on the show or have questions for a future show, you can email us at thepath4ward@gmail.com. That's thepathforward@gmail.com. And if you're looking for a speaker or you're in need of a life coach, please reach out to me. Again, at thepathforward@gmail.com or at ACKORLEH@gmail.com. Thank you. Until next time.